everyone. My name is Yarden. I'm part of the Microsoft Reactor team, and I'm really excited to welcome you all here today. Thank you for joining us for this session. So before we dive into today's session, I'd like to take a moment to introduce you to Microsoft Reactor's program. For those of you who are new to the Reactor program, the Reactors are community hubs designed to support developers, startups, students, and anyone curious about technology to meet, learn, and connect together. Whatever you're just getting started or you're already deep in the tech journey, Reactor is here to help you grow. You can go ahead and scan the QR code to learn more about us and see a little bit more of free learning and skill development opportunities. So we have 10 physical hubs in different locations worldwide, but we also offer programming online where you can join anytime from your home. You can scan, again, the QR code on the screen to learn more. And of course, you can join our newsletter. We love to stay connected beyond today. You can find more upcoming events in your language or your region. Join our community or even follow us online to learn a little bit more here on the QR. And of course, we will share the links in the chat later. Little extra, tomorrow, you don't want to miss a free data skilling opportunity. It's part of 12-part series for developers and AI innovators. And you will learn how to secure your data in AI applications and join a live context with exciting GitHub prizes. So one last thing, here at Microsoft Reactor, we're committed to create a safe, inclusive, and respectful environment for everyone. So please be kind and respectful to each other, and let's work together to keep this as a welcoming space for all. So I am more than happy to welcome Ginger and Heidi for today's session. So take it from here, and good luck.
Thanks. I am so excited because I get to present this time with my good friend Heidi. Hey, Heids, how's it going?
Hey, I'm super excited.
Yeah. I know you are certified in DP-700, so I'm sure everyone's going to learn a lot at this session. So let's kick this off. A little bit about me. My name is Ginger Grant. I am a Microsoft Data Platform MVP and obviously a colorful QR code aficionado. When I'm not playing around with random software packages and running my data consulting firm, I use my Microsoft certified training certification to teach some cert classes, and I even have some Fabric classes on LinkedIn Learning. So if you happen to be wandering over there and your company pays for it, might want to check those out as well. If you want to get a hold of me after, I look forward to connecting with you on either Twitter or LinkedIn. So take it away, Heidi. I could talk about you, but I'll let you do that by yourself.
Hey everyone, I'm Heidi Hastings. I'm from Australia, hence the strange accent. I am also a data analytics professional. I do a lot of consulting. I am a data platform MVP and a certified trainer as well. I'm not so much of a QR aficionado, but you can find my blog at heidihastings.com, and you can find me on the relevant socials. Like, you can find me on X, you can find me on Blue Sky, you can find me on LinkedIn. I'm on all those, but I'm super excited to be talking to you all about DP-700 and just all things Microsoft data. And I couldn't be more happier than presenting with my good mate Ginger. And Great. We are live. We are so live. I mean, for everyone watching it back later, of course we're not live, but if you are joining us now and watching us on YouTube via the live stream, you are live. We are live. You can ask questions in the chat. We have our awesome moderators who are going to be there. Feel free to ask questions. This is an open space. We want the questions. We want to know what you all think. And I see we got people from all over the world, which is amazing. Look at it, India, Copenhagen. Wow, amazing.
Great. I know it's going to keep, hopefully they have a whole lot of questions, and then Vesa and Taub will be busy answering them the whole time. I really am happy that we get them to be moderators. Vesa is one of my favorite Finns, and Taub runs the data community in the Boston area. So fellow MVPs who know a lot about Fabric as well. So lucky them, right?
I know. It's amazing, like such a huge community, and we're all there to help you. So do ask those questions.
I know. We're from all over the world and really like getting together and talking tech, right? Well, this is a great series. So happy you could join us today. We're going to be talking about DP-700. and which is data engineering in Fabric, different from DP-600, which I know we did a big push on earlier. A lot of topics that you need to take a look at if you're looking to take the exam. We're covered them here, starting off with the data engineering with Microsoft Fabric, looking at how you can use those components to help you engineer a data solution inside of Fabric, looking at how you can do orchestration last time with Data Factory and notebooks. And this time, Heidi and I are going to be talking about real-time stuff, so data that's just coming at you. So looking to look at everything streaming. Next up tomorrow, looking at data warehousing, popular topic always. And then, of course, the Fabric environment, looking at, of course, the importance of CI/CD, DevOps. I know that Heidi, you present on DevOps periodically. So that's going to be a great topic I'm sure you'll be interested in. Looking at doing monitoring and security with that. And then, of course, admin and governance, very important part with Fabric when you're scaling to large scale. And then the last one we're going to be looking at is preparing for exam day. So if you like stored up questions or you're starting to study for the exam and you're like, what about, and should I study? That May 21st is going to be a great session for open. So that'll be another one you really want to do live to get any questions you might have answered.
Absolutely. And if you're following along with us today, don't forget that there is an opportunity to get discount for those certification exams. It's not always cheap to do those certification exams. So why not sign up? Now, this is not just a case of scan the QR code and you get the discount. There's a little bit more effort into it, right? So you're going to register, then you're going to make sure you submit for the challenge to do DP-700. You're then going to complete all the Learn modules. So just by watching this series, you're seeing that same content in a different format. So why not follow along with us? So go to that aka.ms/gc/DP700, sign up for the challenge, do DP700, get all those Learn modules completed, and then make sure you register to do your exam by the day that they specify. And then you too could be a Microsoft certified Fabric engineer. How cool is that? We have our own data engineer certification at an associate level. Even Power BI didn't get an associate level one, but engineers in Fabric can. And this is different to the analytics engineer. Because remember, we got data engineers and we got analytics engineers. There is a difference. And there's a difference to DP-203, which is now sort of deprecated, but that was all about the Azure engineering. We're talking about just Fabric and all things Fabric engineering. So real time is one massive part of that. And we're going to go into that in more depth in today's session. But make sure, scan that QR code, watch back the recording to get the QR code if you missed it, and give it a go. Give the exam a go. Test yourself. See how all your learning's going. Because don't worry, if you don't pass the first time, there's another time and another time and another time. You can keep giving it a go. I know I had to give it a go a couple of times.
The big thing about it is just studying for the exam. I mean, even if you don't, I hope everybody takes the cert, but I hope you all take the time to study it, because it's the learning thing that's going to really make you become a better engineer. And here's the link for all of those Learn modules that Heidi was talking about, so that you can get up and study on it, because you want to learn it before you're like, okay, now you're the one who's in charge, to take a look at the different elements within it. It's amazing, Heights, how much that Microsoft has put inside of Fabric. A lot of the stuff that used to be all over Azure is now inside of Fabric. So there's just so many different parts to it now. You could be looking at all the analytics stuff and not even get into this. So it's so big, and there's so much stuff to learn for sure, right?
I know. I never used to think it was for me, this real-time intelligence stuff, but I was wrong. And I got to say, it's near real time. Everyone always wants real time, but everything is near real time. But in today, we're going to talk about all of it. So we're going to go through what is, what's an overview of DP-700 when in the context of real time. Let's talk about, why Fabric data engineering? Why not something else? We're going to look at the specific components of Fabric that are real-time intelligence related, because as Ginger said, there are so many things inside Fabric. Real-time intelligence on its own has a number of items and a number of features. It even gets its own hub for, it's pretty special in the stack. It's got one special feature that the others don't have. We've got Activator. We can do alerting off our data streams, which is sort of unheard of in some of the Microsoft stack. up until Fabric. We're going to look at what real-time data, where can we store it? What's this event house thing? I always say, lake house, you go to relax, think about Florida, warehouse, very organized, think about logistics. Event house, where your data goes to party, because that data is just coming in and out, in and out, in and out at all sorts of varying speeds. And it's got different sizes. We can look at gigs, we can look at petabytes, we can do all of it. And then we've got our real-time dashboards. But today we're also going to give you some practical tips for DP-700, because we want to make sure that whilst we're giving you all this theory, that we also give you some practical ways you can set yourself up for success looking at that DP-700. We can't do everything for you, so you are going to have to study and learn, but we will give you that sort of bit of a nudge in the right direction.
Yeah, Heidi, when I'm talking to people about this exam, they're like, you know what? The thing that I'm really worried about is everything that has to do with streaming, because streaming is a lot of thing that, let's just say, it's aspirational for people because their organizations are doing it, so they don't have like the hands-on experience that they might have in other aspects of Power BI. But it's not as difficult to learn as you might think. So if you've not done anything with streaming, definitely going to help you out with that. So we're going to be talking about all of the skills, but today we're doing the streaming stuff. So talking about how to make that element work.
And you're absolutely right when it is that aspirational, right? Because you've got to look at it. Then the exams that Microsoft are putting out there now are all role focused. So whilst you may be a unicorn in your organization you might play the admin hat, you might play the governance hat, you might be the engineer, the analytics professional, the Power BI report developer, the dashboard designer, you might be everything. But when it comes to these certification exams, it's all role focused. So you've got to think about, if we're in an organization that could have a data engineer specialized role, what does that look like? They're going to do things like ingesting and transforming data. And that can be batch, it can be stream. That's why we're covering off things like real time. They're going to talk about how you're going to secure and manage that. How do we give access to the different solutions? And then how do we monitor and optimize those? And it's really key that you have a look at what languages they're looking to assess in the exam as well, because we're doing things in Fabric, which has a lot. So we're going to look at things like PySpark, Spark SQL, Custo query language, structured query language, all those different languages. You don't know the exam question. You don't get the choice to pick. It will just come up. So you got to know things like KQL structures. We're going to go through that with you in today's session because that's the core one for when working with real-time intelligence. But have a look at that role description and see if it's something that suits you. If it's not an area that you're keen to certify yourself on, move on to the next one. But if it is, have a think about getting this exam certification. Add that to your CV. Give yourself more opportunities in the job market. And let's talk about that in depth. Yeah. I think you're going to give us the actual role description, Gina. We're going to talk about like how many points are going towards the different sections.
Right. Yeah. I mean, you can see if you look at this list why there's so many sessions on Reactor on what to study for DP-700, because we're looking at it's 3 groups that you can possibly look at. Then it's split pretty evenly between them. Between 30 and 35, that basically is 33 and a third right there. And we're just going to be concentrating on just the one small part of looking at transformation and streaming. If you've been keeping up, you've already looked at that configuring Fabric workspace settings, the lifecycle management, looking at the orchestration. That was the data, the pipeline stuff. So, and also loading patterns. We're looking at streaming data. The ingestion between what we're doing in batch is not a whole lot different, but we'll go into the different nuances, for that. And then upcoming, we're looking at the monitoring, because of course it's important to be able to evaluate what's currently going on in your Fabric environment. Also, any errors, we just plan for it. I mean, you never want errors, but they're going to happen. So it's best to know in advance what you should do if you happen to see one, and then looking at how you can make it better, faster, because as soon as you're done, people are like, yeah, but can I do this faster? Or can I have it now? And that's what's great about what we're talking about today. It's pretty snappy, getting the data near real time. It doesn't take much distance from the time it's being streamed out, the time that we're actually able to process it. And what's great is some of the stuff we'll show you about the different ways that you can do it as it's coming in. And you can do multiple ways at the same time, which is pretty cool.
And I can't wait for the demos later where people can see just how quickly you can view that data and just how quickly you can transform it on the fly before you're even storing it. But as we said, we're going to take you through one of those Learn modules. So why not follow along with us? That way you've already done the Learn module by watching us and going through the deck at the same time. You can have a look at this module in a different format. As we said, Fabric it's got everything, but we want to talk today about that streaming real-time analytics space. We know that we've got batch, but for today, we're going to focus on that real-time ingestion. We're going to look at the data coming in on the fly and storing it in that event house. It's not the only thing we can store it in. We can store it in lake houses and warehouses as well. But today, we're going to look at what are the characteristics and everything. What does a real-time intelligence solution look like? What are the components within Fabric that we can work with? What are those item types? And then maybe what's some use cases that we can use this for? Because I've seen some pretty cool ones. I know you have too, Ginger, at FabConf. Yeah. What we can do with real-time intelligence. I tell you what, if you're a gamer, why not consider starting getting your statistics around, if you're playing Forza and all those sorts of, car racing games, why not bring that data in to your real-time intelligence solution and start doing some analytics on it? How quickly are you getting around the track?
Fun to watch too. Somebody was gaming and then streaming their data into this.
Oh yeah,
man, there's an idea for a demo right there. So good times, man. Well, let's talk about like this real-time stuff. So what are we talking about? Data that you get streamed. At one point in time, I did some consulting work for a company that drove around concrete trucks. And that meant that we had all of the streaming information from the trucks in near real time. So it's that unbounded stream. And you want to know, hey, is that guy speeding? That's the kind of data that you want to act on now. Hey, send him a text message, slow down. And what if somebody is stuck in traffic? If I live in Arizona, if you're stuck in traffic with a load of concrete, that means that it's going to become a hard congealed mess inside of that truck. And you can look at this stream in real time and process it in real time. And we get the records that are time-based. So if they come in out of order, we can put them in the right order. We can use different things with different windows. So we can look at aggregations, because let's say you get like what I was seeing, if you get things in every 10 seconds, it's kind of overwhelming. Maybe you want to group things in different windows that make sense, or they make sense for analysis. Another thing that I've done with streaming data is that I worked with a company that had temperature sensors inside of different grocery stores to determine what the interior temperature of the freezer was, so that the food stayed safe. But you know what? There's always somebody who's got that dang door open, and they leave it open for a while. So the fact that the temperature inside of the freezer goes up for a little bit, you need to look at it in context of how long does somebody have the door open. So looking at these windows to look at it over a period of maybe 5 to 10 minutes, then you can see, oh, well, the temperature just normalized it because somebody finally figured out what ice cream they wanted and shut the door. So looking at it, if you looked at just those smaller intervals, you'd see that giant spike where the door was propped open. But to process meaningful information, we want a longer time frame. And we can do that in real time with our event processing. And also, you might want to look at, hey, historically, when should we care? So you can look at, are there times when we're likely to see more spikes? Like if you're talking about freezers, for example, you're going to see more spikes in the summer. So maybe you process different rules, different times a year for when you start worrying about, hey, is this thing broken? And then, because immediately you need to send out a technician if that is the case. And these are the kinds of things that you want to act on with that data. But like, for example, when I was working with a concrete trucks, what we looked at is we analyzed the pattern of driving with maintenance. So were there some trucks that needed brakes more frequently? And then we looked at, how people drive, and you can do the historical analysis of the data after you have it streaming, because you can see what happened at a given point in time. And let me tell you, legal really liked that because they wanted to know what happened right before wreck. And that's the kind of information that you can analyze over time that maybe you don't even think about looking at until like 6 months later. One thing that's wonderful about Fabric and just data in the cloud in general is that it's so cheap to store data now. So there's no reason that you have to get rid of the data once you've got it streamed. You can keep it for your historical analysis, look at it later, do machine learning analysis on it later, because you've got that raw data coming in and you can process it in real time and then go back and look at it to do historical analysis, which is pretty cool.
Yeah, I love those examples. You know, the use case that I never thought I would consider it for? The fabric
What?
events, the events on the tenant itself. When people create a workspace, when they add users to a workspace, when they publish different data sets, there's a inbuilt event stream for that. So you can just tap straight on in. No more going to the Office 365 activity log for everything. We can put it straight inside Fabric and analyze straight away. And it's great for those audits.
Yeah, I didn't realize you could do that. I mean, because had looked at the logs for years, and now we can just look at this instead. That's a great idea.
Yeah, it's like a little hidden one. And it all means you can test out the features. You know, if you don't yet have a project to be able to do it, but you're a tenant admin, why not use it for your tenant administration? People always forget that doing that administrative work is still data. It's working with data. So when we talk about real-time intelligence, we're looking at all these different item types within Fabric. So the very first one, event stream. We got to have that stream of data coming in. So where are we getting it from? We got to ingest it from somewhere, and then we can apply transformations to it. And all of that is going to occur in the event stream itself. Then we've got somewhere to store it. That's the event house. That's where our data goes to party and also has a bit of a timeout and hangs out in storage. That can be hot and cold storage as well, and we can get those statistics on that. So all that real-time data we can store in an event house, and we can choose if we don't want to have all of it. So let's say you've got all these IoT devices coming in and you've got all these different attributes, but you only actually want to do analytics on a portion of that. With the combination of the event stream and the event house, you can just take a subset of that stream and say, I only want these properties to store. And you can even multicast that data out as you're working with it and go, well, actually, I'm going to need this data from the event stream going over here, and I'm going to need this data in this other table for two separate teams, or whatever the case may be. We've then got the concept of a KQL query set. So you've heard about KQL. We're going to go into that later in more detail, but that's the query language. And a query set is being able to bundle up a bunch of queries into a set so that you can reuse them and use them as combinations of queries. We've also got, who doesn't love a dashboard? Of course, we've got the real-time dashboard where we can create tiles and pin those to a real-time dashboard. So we might want to see statistics about our streams as they're coming through, or we might actually want to see in real time, how many concrete trucks do we got? How are they going? Are they on time? Or what about our parcel delivery? I love my parcel delivery, but I want to know exactly where it is. All those notifications. Heck, what about flights? You want to know when your flight's delayed? Why not chuck it in a real-time dashboard? You'll know straight away. My next trip coming up is going to be in trouble, or oh, get to the airport now. Plane's on its way. The Activator. That I am more than excited about that feature. Who doesn't love? Like, do you remember the sysadmin days? I don't know about you, Ginger, but back a few years back, I was a sysadmin before I went all in on data. And you used to do the pings, and you used to figure out if your server was up or down. I look at that and go, Activator. Now we can just say, hey, when you realize that the server is not responding or you haven't got an alert from it, go let someone know, whether it's send an email, send an alert, tap into Power Automate and run all these different business process flow options. You know, what about, is my data actually coming through? Maybe there's an outage. Maybe the network went down. Maybe someone accidentally run, a backhoe through a cable and the internet's down. Not, of course, Fabric, but, just your IoT streaming data. All those sorts of things, we can have that configured with Activator, so we can do alerts off those actions. And I love the idea of being alerting off a fridge. I even contemplated doing it myself, getting a little sensor, putting it in my fridge, streaming the data through. That way I know if there's like a power outage at home when I'm in the office. All these sorts of things. Weather data, IoT, or even just intermittent streams when you've just got data that's coming in at a variable rate. It all fits in RTI. We love it.
It's so cool what you can do with Activator. I mean, because having the data in, you can react, you can have this fabric react faster than a human can, because you'd be like, okay, this is a pattern. We know that this is a condition. Dang, we'll fire something off so that if you're a sysadmin, then you don't get, garbage stuff and you don't have to sit there and watch it. You can just get notified when there's something important, and it might even tell you what you need to do.
Exactly. And we all love to be preventative with our data. We want to prevent problems. We want to get ahead of it. We want to be less reactive, more proactive. So the more we can do those trending, the fact that we can trend and alert over time. If the fridge stays at a particular temperature for too long, then we alert. Or if it just goes over a threshold, we alert. Packages start disappearing, we can alert. All these different options that we have and all the different rules we can apply. It's just incredible.
Oh yeah, I really love it. That's a really cool feature. And you can kind of relax and kind of wait for it to just process it and just analyze those rules. Really cool. And one of the ways you can do that is looking at the sources in the real-time hub. And that's one place that you can see where everything is coming in. So I mean, of course, you're going to have different streams for different processes, different things you want to look at, but it's centralized as well so that you can take a look at what's going on in your entire organization. And it's automatically provisioned. I don't know about you, but do you ever do stuff with the event hub, all that good stuff, Heidi?
Oh yeah. Log Analytics, Azure Data Explorer.
Now, this is like all like built in there. So you don't have to look at provisioning those things or how to work them and what the separate different cost models are. It's just you automatically get it. So it makes it so much simpler than having to turn all that different stuff on and monitor all that different stuff. And you can have one place that you can go look at it. Just makes it really easy to maintain and manage this kind of work over time.
Now we talked about that. Yeah, we talked about the event stream. This is what the event stream looks like, right? So you can see it's very clicky, drag, drop. It's all graphical user interface. It's as simple as when you say, I want a new event stream, this is what it's going to look like. Well, this one's been configured, but you get the layout. So you'll get data coming in, you're going to do something with it, and you're going to store it. So, but you can notice down the bottom there, you can also see what the stream looks like. As you're starting to configure it, you will see the stream on the screen in real time. So you're seeing that data as it's coming through. So you can work out, oh, actually, I want to transform the data. I might want to aggregate it. I might want to group it. As Ginger said earlier, you don't want all the data coming in every 5 seconds. Maybe you want to roll it into batches of data and go, I want to window it every 5 minutes. I want to put it into a different group, or I want to group it by, say, a street or a sector in this case. And then you might want to transform it further and store it somewhere, or store it in multiple places if you wanted to, keeping it in the one lake area so you can reuse it. But you can take different bits of the stream and put it in different tables. But let's look at those components in depth for the event stream. Ginger, what do we got?
So thinking about that, this is like a perfect example to kind of illustrate exactly what you were talking about. Because check this out. So we've got 2 different streams. We have the one stream here. And we've got 2 different events that are going to happen as a result of it. We've got basically just the whole stream, and then that group by, so that we can take a look at data that we've chosen to group together. And you can use different windows, which we'll go into, but just kind of gives you can have multiple destinations so that you can process one stream, multiple ways at the same time. Kind of neat.
Super cool. Now we talk about this event stream. What can we attach it to? What are the sources we can work with? I know you're all sort of scanning through this list. The key ones I'm going to point out: Apache, Kafka. Look at Kafka. Kafka is really common. You'll notice the Fabric Workspace Events is appearing there. That's the events off the tenant. We've also got the Azure Event Hub. So if you've already got an Azure PaaS data estate, or you're working with web apps, or you've got log analytics data going in, why not send it to Fabric instead of using the Azure PaaS offering? You can use the Fabric Analytics offering. You can start to see all that data. You can even have a custom endpoint if you need that for your data. So you've got all these options to source data. And then when we talk about destination, you don't have to store it in the event house if you don't want to. You might want to store it in a lake house. But just remember, if it's in an event house and it's in the one lake and it's in Fabric, you can start integrating it across with other data sets in other areas. So you may have your batch data sitting in a lake house, your stream data sitting in an event house, inside a KQL database within that, and you can still work across them. So those are the different ways that we can work with the sources and destinations. There's a lot. I mean, not as many as the number of connectors you can get with pipelines and notebooks and things, but still, when it comes to the real-time space, this is where we've got, and this is just the starting point. Always look at the roadmap for things that are coming up, because there's always more and more and more when it comes to Fabric, always an announcement. But what about the transformations, Ginger? What can we do in the transformation space?
Well, this is like a really good topic, because when you're getting streaming data in, you probably are looking to perhaps look at it in more of an aggregate than one coming in, because these can come in so fast. So you might want to look at, different kinds of aggregations, or joining 2 streams together to get some more meaning from them, and unioning them or joining them, filtering them, taking out the ones that you don't care about, because maybe there are some in one stream that you care about and other ones you for a different process, but oops. So one of the things you can do, I talked earlier about windows. So there's different kinds of windows that you can use to help you better capture the data in ways that are meaningful to you. For example, tumbling windows. Tumbling windows allow you to aggregate over a specific period of time. You can also do sliding windows, which are going to allow you to change that up a little bit so that you can do fixed and overlapping intervals and then divide those up. Then you can go with session windows that you can have non-overlapping windows that are based on a gap, or if you've got a lack of activity, so it won't just automatically start grouping things up. It looks and is processing based on the data that you got. Or you might even do hopping windows, as basically you're looking to do where that they are scheduled. So you're just scheduling different groups that make sense for you, or just snapshot everything that has the same time set. It's not unusual when you're bringing in data that it comes in out of order. And if you want to put it back in order, snapshot can help you do that. So you can set different things like the duration of how long these windows are. So maybe seconds, every 5 seconds you're putting them together, or maybe 10 minutes, depending on how your data is streaming. And you can offset that if you want to as well. Maybe you want to wait, 2 minutes between the two of them. And what do you want to group by? Well, whatever field that is coming in that's valuable to you. And so you can do that, or aggregate the functions inside of it, maybe adding things up when you are doing your streaming. Let's take a look at how those results look, Heidi.
Yeah, we've got our real-time dashboard. So if you were creating a KQL query and you just want to see it in a visualization form, you can then take that KQL query and change it into a tile on a dashboard. So if anyone's ever experienced Power BI dashboards, it's very similar. You create a query, you pin it to the dashboard, it then becomes a tile on that dashboard. But it's real-time data. So as the data is coming through, you can see it change. So if you're working with a team and you've got executives who are needing to see certain information about the data, you can pin it on the dashboard and then give them access to the dashboard and go, here's the information you needed to know. You wanted to see, the average price as it's going through, as it's changing, day in, day out, throughout the hours of a day. If we've got our concrete trucks, we want to know how many of them are stuck in traffic, for example. You might want to know what the delays are. What's the average delivery time between them going from the plant to their destination where they're going to unload the concrete? So we can go through and see all that. And it's a Power BI dashboard. So we can use those skills that we've already been working with in our other analytics professionals, and we can build Power BI dashboards. So we've got those same, readily available things where we can pick fields, we can do aggregations, we can display them in the different visualizations that we are well and truly familiar with if we've been working with Power BI. But if we're not, there's an easy way to get started. You run a query, turn it into a dashboard, plug and play, and then you give it to someone to make it look pretty.
Yeah,
that's what we can do with that.
Two of them. Isn't that cool? So like whichever one you want to do, and if you want to incorporate, your Power BI stuff, they make it so easy. There's just a button to click to make that happen. Really great stuff. All right. Well, hey, you know what?
We're gonna
Okay.
Yes. Demo. I love it.
Yeah. Well, let's take a look at how to make this work. I mean, we've done a lot of talking about, how we were going to do it. But let's take a look at how you can make that event stream process happen, what you have to do in Fabric to make that work. So to do that, let's take a look at creating an event stream. So what I've done here is I've created a Learn Together workspace, and we're going to go ahead and then have it do the steps that we need to do to create that streaming data. So I'm going to then go ahead and create that new item. And of course, that's going to be a event house. So I'm going to call it RTI Event House because, I'm not very creative. Put that in there and get it to load. And again, it's clicky, draggy, droppy. So I didn't have to do anything but enter the name. And I've got this blank dashboard. Of course, I want to actually make this dashboard happen. So I'm going to go ahead and look at my event house. And I don't have any data there yet. So I'm going to make that happen. And I want to add my data to it. So the first thing that I'm going to go ahead and do is say get data. And what am I going to add? Well, I've got a number of different options of things that I can add. I can look at doing, different kinds of event streams. I can, look at how I'm going to make those things go. So I'm going to go ahead and make that happen. Yeah, I'm going to go ahead and click on a new event stream. So I'm going to call my event stream Bike Stream because I am going to actually streaming bike data. So I wanted to pick something that you could do as well. So I am using the sample data to make this fly. So I'm going to go ahead and make that happen by looking at my sample data here and then adding that in there. I automatically, once I've got that, I have got my data source. I've added my stream. The next thing I need to do is I need to create a destination. I'm going to enter that destination last because I get to pick the other things that I can work on first. So naturally, I want to pick my workspace, and then I'm going to pick the event house that automatically got created when I did this. And then I'm going to call my destination name RTI Event House because that's where it's going. And my K-Cool database is called that as well. And I don't have any tables yet because I don't have anything in my blank table that just was created. So I'm going to go ahead and add bikes. And the data is coming in as JSON, and I want it activated after I add it. So first thing off, I'm going to need to save it. And once it's saved, it is not going to be streaming until I start publishing it. And this is going to be committing the topology. So it's going to start streaming my data and putting it into my event house. And we can see that happening right here. So it's busy loading up all of the data from my stream, and then it's going to put it into my event house. So I'm going to refresh it a couple of times, get it to get my data in there. I've got my stream going. It does take a little while to kick this off, and I will say that in interest of not wasting a ton of your time, I did go ahead and record this in advance so that we didn't sit around looking at spinning wheels more than we had to. So now I've got the stream going, and my event house is active. So both of my streams, source and destination, are active. Now I just need to wait until that data loads so that I can get everything added to my event house, take a look at it in there and see what it looks like. So we've got my data in here, and I can take a look at the sites. And so we can see that I'm getting data here, and I can go ahead and refresh it and in the see where it's going. Maybe change that if I'm looking at it over time to different values. I can see both incoming and outgoing message. And yeah, I ran it for a while to keep on getting more and more data. And to give you an idea, over time, my data look like that. So once I've got my data there, you can see I've got an activity tracker. I didn't have to create this. This is automatically being created for me. I've got events happening, and this is what you get just out of the box when it comes to a warehouse, a dashboard that you can take a look at. So I can see my row count, my compressed size, my last ingestion. I can take a look at the data, and it's going to show me the top 10 queries that are going through with it. You can also see in my K-Cool database that I've got that table called bikes, and we can see what I've gotten data that's coming in. You can see I've got streets, I got bike points, I got different neighborhoods, looking at things all over Chelsea. And I can even query it. Now I'm going to leave Heidi to do like serious K-Cool queries. I'm just doing the top 100 there. So next I'm going to take a look at my stream. I want to do something else, right? I did the one single event stream, but I want to add a group by, and I'm going to do that to my same item. Of course, once I do that, I'm going to need to set this up as well. So I'm going to do an aggregation here. I'm going to start adding things up, and I'm going to add things up based on my field, and my field is no bikes. That means number of bikes, not no bikes. It's the number that I've got. So I'm adding those up, and to see every, over a tumbling window. And so I'm going to start accumulating things based on a street and the number of bikes in the street in 5 seconds. So I'm going to start kind of doing some tracking. So first I need to add it, and then I can go ahead and save it. But it still shows me an error. I need to add a destination. So I'm going to add my destination, going to put it in my event house, and I'm going to create a new table for it. To get rid of that error message, you can see it says, hey, you have no destination. No destination, you need to go ahead and create one. So I'm going to do that. I'm going to say that I want to put my data into a event house. Got some options, but this is what I want to do. So this destination name is going to be the Bikes by Street table. It's going to be in my same workspace and in my same event house and in my same K-Cool database. And I'm going to create a new table. I've got bikes working. That's all well and good, but I want to create a new one. And the new one that I'm going to create is going to be my bikes. And then I want the number of those. So I want bikes by street, and I'm grouping that data together. It's data. I'm going to go ahead and activate that So now I'm going to have data going to two places. I'm going to have it going to the bikes table, and then I'm going to be tumbling it to my bikes by the street table. So I've got two different processes going on with the exact same data stream to provide me different levels of analytics inside of my event house and inside of my, monitoring my streaming processes. So I can see that it's loading that data. So if I want to click and see what happens there, if I click on it, refresh it, and eventually I'm going to see some data in preview. So this is what I'm getting instead. I'm looking at my street, I'm looking at the number of bikes, and I'm looking at the different windows. So we can see that, hey, look, I've got some near Tate Modern. Any of you been to that museum in downtown London, or as they say, CBD in Heidi's part of the world. So looking at the different data insights that I can gather on my streaming data, taking a look at how that's coming in. I don't have any real-time logs that I've got going on here, something that I definitely could add. So, but for my insights, I'm looking to see how much data that I've got in, and I can look at different kind of overall or errors. I've also got the number of things that are coming in per second. And if I had any watermark delays, they would show down there at the bottom. So again, you get a lot of these built-in lake houses. You can add more, but if you don't add more, you've got quite a bit to work with anyway. So let's go back to my event house, and we can see the data that I've got in it. That's the one with the cylinder with a little triangle next to it. I'm going to need to refresh it to see my new table that I created. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. Make sure it is refreshed so I can see it. And here we see that I've got the ingestion for both tables there, but don't see the table yet. So now we can see both tables. We can see the different graphs, the different number of data elements in each. And I can look at querying them. I'm going to use simple queries. Take 100 just is going to give me that. I can take a look at any shortcuts that I might have. But here's just taking a look at the data that has hit that table. And I can change up the hours from hours to day and refresh it and seeing more and more data that is coming in. I can even see a top 10 query that it is giving me for the different destinations that my bikes happen to be in. Again, kind of cool insights, didn't have to do anything. I also have that tables detailed pane as well. So here's my overall dashboard. Again, the system one for my two different streams. I can look at the activity. I can see the one that I'm doing all of this. I can see the different levels of ingestion in my lake house and what it's done over time. I've set the streams up at different times, so I've got lots of different data that I'm showing between the two. So you can see without even having to do a whole lot of configuration, a whole lot of effort, you're able to see a lot of information about your events. And I can go ahead and keep on hitting that refresh and see the data that is coming in, see what is new in the last 7 days, what I've done, and if the number of queries, any errors that I've received. All of that information is available, and I didn't even have to do my own dashboard to make all of this happen. So it's really pretty cool that I have all of this information just right out of the box. And if you're looking to, do this for studying for the exam, this is definitely something that you can do. I know I was really intimidated. I'm like, looking at how to demo this effectively. It is so simple, and you can get so much great information just through a couple of simple steps in Fabric. It's truly amazing.
It is so amazing to get all that stuff out of the box. And I know there's a lot of activity going on in the chat, and it's great to see all of you asking questions and our awesome moderators answering them. I know some key topics came up out of that, which is change data capture. Is it possible to have that as an event stream? Yes, it is. Things like SQL Server, but then you've got there are multiple ways to do something. So you can do open mirroring, you can do mirroring, and you've also got CDC coming in as an event stream. So you have to look at which one's the best one for you. But if we have a look at something like Activator here, so Activator it's an item in its own right, and within that we have these events. Each event represents a record within the stream. So we've got the concept of an event, and for each event we then translate that into an object. So that may be it's all about a package, or it's all about a weather sensor data or an IoT device, and then within that we've got the different records. So once we've got the concept of what's the event that's coming through and what does that conceptually relate to, then what are the rules we want to apply? We talked about, what if they're delayed for a particular period of time? What if the fridge has been, the door's bin left open, the temperature's skyrocketing, or has stayed too long, like, maybe the thermostat's broken because the temperature's sort of not sitting where we expect it to be. So we can have those rules that allow us to create triggers and have conditions that are applied to that stream. We can do it as threshold, or we can do it as a range, time series range. And then we can also look at the properties within that event. So each different event has a different set of properties. And we can set those up in such a way that we can reuse them. Like, you might decide that, okay, let's look at the average brightness level. Say we're using home automation for just as sample data. I've got all these different lights around my house. I want to look at the average brightness that I'm setting, and then I want to use that throughout my other events and see how that's applied. So we can do all that within Activator, and then we can attach Activator to other things. So we can look at doing an event alert off that. That alert may be an email. It may be sending, say, a Teams message. A lot of organizations use Teams, so you can automatically tell your service desk team or your operational support team, hey, there's an issue here, go have a look. Or we can even run another Fabric item. We might say, hey, we've got a specific event that's came through that we then need to go trigger a notebook to go get some other ancillary data from another system, or whatever the case may be. We can do all that with Activator. But Activator is not the only thing we can do, because we can also do the KQL. KQL.
Yeah, good thing you're talking about KQL, because for those of us who've done SQL for a while, this is a completely different language. It doesn't look remotely the same. And if you're getting data that you're streaming, it is optimized for it. So we've got a number of different KQL databases inside of Fabric that you can create. Lakehouse is totally KQL. You've got that new query language. And of course, if you don't know it, hey, there's AI to help you do some vibe coding with KQL so that you can get better at it and learn it.
Absolutely. And there's all these things. And the reason we want to tell you all about KQL is it is a core component of this exam. So you need to look at what is the structure of KQL and what are the ways we can sort of performance optimize a different query, and what are the techniques that we can do. So it is, read-only query language. It's going to be used to analyze large volumes of data. And we are talking large, not like the Excel spreadsheet sitting on your desktop, the large petabyte, and bigger scale of data. It doesn't mean you can't use it on the small stuff, but it's designed to work on the large stuff and come back in blazingly fast response times. It's case sensitive, so be careful when you're writing column names and when you're looking at string values, with the exception of keywords. It's using the pipe operator, so just be careful when you're used to writing in, say, T-SQL or DAX or MDX or USQL or any other language out there. KQL is using the pipe symbol to find a lot of its syntax. We've got things that are familiar in other languages. We can do things like filtering. We can do aggregations, group bys, ordering, sorting. We can also convert between KQL and SQL, because that's what they've built into Fabric, the ability to see something in SQL or in KQL. And if you want a fun way to learn, go check out the Custo Detective Agency, which you sign up, it's free. You do a series of challenges, and as you do a challenge, it unlocks the next challenge and the next one and the next one. So you can start with entry-level KQL, and in no time at all, you're elevating yourself up to intermediate and working your way through to advanced. And because you're working with data, you get that real experience. So if you don't yet have a project at work, or you don't have a personal, sample data set you want to work with, there's the sample data sets available within the Fabric platform. But this is another way, gamification. It's a great way to try and learn something, is to have a challenge, have a data set, and then figure out how to write the query for it.
That is so cool. I love gamification. It really helps you learn. And that's a whole lot more interesting than what I'm going to be showing you, which is basically, hey, this is the pattern. And the pattern in which it works is looking at the table name. Now, this is the way that it works. Different from SQL. First, you put the table name up. So no select, just the table name. And then your where condition. And oh, by the way, you can have multiple where conditions. And then whether or not you want to summarize it. And lastly, the order. So basically, if you're looking at it, if I want to do something like I would do in SQL, like, for example, let's say that I'm querying sign-in logs, and I want where the result type is not 0, where the time generated was greater than 24 hours ago, and then I want to summarize by the user principal name, or that's the email address of the person who did it, and then the type of result, and then count them. So what this does is it allows me to query that table called sign-in logs, got 2 where conditions, and I've got a count, and I'm going to do an order by, and count _ space order by. No, I didn't type that wrong. That is exactly what you need to do to make that happen. Heidi, can you help people out and showing them how to do that a little bit better?
Yeah, let's go actually see some KQL in action, right? I'm going to do this live, so let's hope the internet stays safe. Don't worry, a little error will pop up that's unrelated. So remember we had that bikes data set from earlier. So I've got the same. We've got the RTI event house. We're in our KQL database. We've got our tables. If we want to run a query, we can simply right click and say query with code. And with that code, we can either query in SQL or KQL. And it gives us a series of samples. So I already have some samples to work with here. So if we just want to do like, just show me some of the data, I want to get an idea of what's in there, we do that. Put the table name first, and then we say we want to take 100. So different to other languages that might say top or limit, in KQL, it's take. So take 100 just shows 100 records, right? Now we might want to say, what's the total number of bikes within a street? So we've got our bikes by street data set. We want to summarize that, and we want to alias a field, so we can alias fields as well. We want to group it by that windowing end time that we had and the street, and we want to apply a sort so we can see what for each street, for each window, what are the total bikes that they have. But what if we want to do something a little bit different? What if we want to sort it differently? We got two different ways to sort. So we can use the sort by command, or we can use the order by command. So if I run both these, now you can see it's not immediately obvious, but we have two data sets returned. So you can see I've got table 1 and table 2. So within the graphical user interface that is inside real-time intelligence, inside Fabric, we can query multiple data sets in the one query window and see the results next door to each other. So we can go from one results pane to the next. And we can also look at the statistics on that because we want to try and work out this KQL that we've been running, how's it impacting our capacity consumption? How long is this query taking to run? When we come to monitor and performance, we need to be able to understand, well, how do I find out what the performance was based on the record number that we've got back and the size of that data as well. So we can see all that statistical data against our query. But you can see we can sort it. Then we've got something else here. We can do things like case statements. So I can say, well, I know that there's some anomalies in the data and I want to represent them all in a consistent way. So in the event that the neighborhood data is empty or it's null, then just tell me it's unidentified. So you can do things that are consistent with other analytical solutions where you go, I want to basically do the equivalent of an inferred member and say, if you just get data I don't know how to interpret it, put it into the unspecified category, the unidentified, and then you'll see all that data. We can do the filtering. As Ginger said, filtering at the top. And think about it, this is a performance technique as well. You want the data to be as small as possible as you work your way through the different patterns, similar to SQL. So when you're looking at some of those exam questions, make sure you're familiar with how to structure it to get optimal performance, because sometimes it is just restructuring the order of the things you're trying to do. And you'll notice this nice little phrase here, project. Project is kind of like saying, I only want to pick certain columns, so project those columns back at me. So I've told her I want to get the neighborhood column and the total number of bikes column. We know the bikes data set has way more columns in it. So we can see that here. We can see there's more columns. This is a way of just saying, just give me these two. I don't need anything else. And you can use them from the alias. So we can summarize and then project using that alias from the summarize. And we can sort on top of that. So we can combine it all together and run that. And we can see here for the Chelsea neighborhood, the total number of bikes, 4,226. But Ginger pointed out we can do it in T-SQL as well. So we can go query that KQL database using T-SQL. So if we want to see the top 100 rows, we just write, select top 100 rows. If we wanted to look at, for Chelsea neighborhood, what's the total bikes? We can do that too. Same result, different query language, same data. We don't have to manipulate the data and put it in different storages to use different engines. It's all there. We can use it all together. And you would have seen the little Copilot symbol. Yes. And now that Copilot's available within Fabric for more capacities, you can enable Copilot and have it help you write KQL as well. So you've got so many options here. You can write KQL yourself directly out of the box. You can take SQL and write it. You can have Copilot help you switch it from KQL to T-SQL and back again. Or you can just be like, hey, I'm not sure. I just want to query this and have it generate the KQL and then put it into the query window and then run it. Or you're a visuals person and you go, you know what? I want to visually represent this result set, or I want to build Power BI off it. And I want to use Power BI to get my answers. You can do all of that, all straight within the interface. I didn't have to install anything. It's all out of the box. If I want to go switch to another table, simply just go down and go, you know what? I want to query this one, query with code. And let's say I want to get the top 100 rows from that one. And there we go. It'll give us a starting point. We can execute that and blazingly fast. we've already got a result set back. Done within 0.116 seconds and over 100 records. And then it's cool because you can look at the unstructured format as well. You can go see the like JSON payload of that. So we see it in a nice tabular format, but if you like to see it in JSON, you can just expand it and go see it in JSON as well. You can copy it, you can paste it into another thing. Say someone said to you, I need the answer to this question. You go run the query off the string. You say, yeah, total number of bikes we've got at the moment, a couple of thousand. Copy, paste, send, done. Job's good. All in that one interface. What do you think?
What I really like
Pretty
is
cool.
you can do everything in there. That is so cool. But you know what? For the test, you can't. There's no vibe coding, and there's no having to only do it in T-SQL. You are going to need to know KQL for this. So great walkthrough, because I know that's something that I needed to walk through before thinking about taking this exam for sure.
Oh yeah, it feels like a lot to do KQL, especially when you're an analytics professional doing all these other languages already. Like we already work with DAX, we already work with MDX, we already work with M as well. It's just another language. But when you see you can write something in SQL and then translate it to KQL, then you start to understand, oh, okay, this is how we structure it. The pipe symbols used in this way. Start with the table and then work your way through the steps. It becomes a little bit easier to understand over time. But it is something you're going to want to practice for a little bit before you try and take the exam, so that you've got it in your mind. This is how it's structured. This is how I can optimize a query. And optimizing is a whole exercise in itself. And check out the KQL How website too. KQL.how is a way to learn the different functions, a bit like DAX.do. KQL.how. It's really cool.
Great tip. And yeah, there's it's wonderful that there's all these tools for helping you learn, gamification, KQL.how, to get you up to speed learning KQL, and Microsoft knows this is a new language for a lot of us who've never seen it before.
Yeah, and if you haven't already checked out the Learn modules, I'm hoping you're all following along with us, but check out those tutorials, because Microsoft has included all the tutorials, including using sample data. So you don't even have to bring your own data to do these. And there's different exercises about how to write KQL. There's ones about how to create dashboards, how to create data activators. There's all these options that we have to just get ourselves started and walk through. And then once you've got the basics, you can then try, okay, now that I've tried it one way, let me go learn different ways to do it. And what other things can I do?
Yeah. So one thing to keep in mind though is what is for the exam, make sure that you got a good understanding of what is making up the event house. And it's really just a centralized location for data using Cusco. So just like you would see in other things. So it's not any different than other databases you might do it, but you got to look at some of the other steps that it has, like data import, querying. The visualizations in it are great. And then of course, Copilot for those of us who are just getting used to doing everything in KQL.
Yeah, and you want to run through the different ways you can do things. So let's say you've got exam questions that are like, I want to create a query that gives me these specific columns back. What would the KQL look like? And you know that to get specific columns, you use the project keyword. So in this case, if we had the automotive data set and we just wanted 4 columns back from that, we use project, and then we put the list of columns. And of course, we use that pipe symbol to indicate we're going from the table to the next bit of the query. We've also got things of what happens if we need to filter data. If they say, hey, I only want the data set where it's Chelsea, like we did in the sample, then we use the where keyword, and that allows us to filter based on a specific criteria. That's different to if we want to group by and use those window and tumbling aspects and do the time series intelligence stuff. Then we've got the summarize. Summarize allows us to create a summary. Think about sums, any of your aggregations, averages. So if the question is talking about using an aggregate technique, then you can use the summarize capability and function.
Yeah, a lot of stuff there, and thankfully a lot of it is a lot like SQL in terms of the patterns and stuff that you use. And another thing that you might be very familiar with when it comes to SQL is materialized views. So understanding those in Event House, it helps you optimize performance from your source tables, and that's going to really improve your query speed. But in addition to that, we also have, of course, stored procs. So you can encapsulate your queries, run them over and over again, reusable, efficient, just like in SQL Server.
Let's look at some practical tips, shall we? So practicality. Why not look and get that certification, voucher? There's a first practical tip. Get a voucher. Make it, less hit on your hip pocket. Then look at how you're going to plan your day. Like, have you studied? Do you want to just have a go at the exam and look at your real world experience today and have a go? Or do you want to go through and do some practice tests? DP-700 has practice tests now, so you can have a look at those. Why not look at doing an applied skill? There's an applied skill on RTI. That'll give you some of that experience. You can even do an applied skill to learn about lakehouse and warehouse. Why not go through that job role statement and look at the different areas that you're going to be tested on and make sure that you've got fundamental knowledge of those key concepts. So we're talking about real-time ingestion and processing today. And then later on in the series, we're going to talk about monitoring and performance. So make sure you've got a core grounding in all the different things to set yourself up for success. Make sure you got, the good laptop ready to go. Your webcam is working if you're doing it remote, or if you feel less stressed by going to a testing center, organize to go have a scheduled testing center time frame, and you go to another place, you go to the test in their environment. That way you're not having to worry about, is my computer working today? Is my internet working today? Are the kids going to walk in the house? Is my partner going to suddenly stroll through the room that I'm in doing an exam and suddenly I'm kicked out of the exam? Those sorts of practical things. Do what is best for you. I often pull out a portable table and sit on my couch, and I do it in my lounge room in the comfort of when I'm home. I'm not stressed about work, and I can just sit there and go, okay, let me do this exam. Couple of hours of my time. But yeah, make sure you set yourself up for success. Any further tips you can think of there, Ginger?
Well, one thing that definitely want to look at is hands-on practice. And I know that for those of you who can't activate your Fabric trial because perhaps you don't have an email address that allows you to do that, Microsoft does have a developer program that will provide you an email address that you can use for the Fabric trial. So definitely look at the Fabric, look at the Microsoft developer platforms to get an email that you can use, because you can't use a trial if you're trying to do it with Gmail or Outlook.com. Unfortunately, that's not going to work for you. And I do think it's really important to do hands-on practice, because it sticks in your brain better if you've actually done it yourself. And there's a number of great study guides and resources that will guide you through some of these hands-on exercise. There are practice tests. Of course, the great stuff on Learn, and it includes some sample projects as well.
Yeah, and stay tuned for the rest of this series. I mean, we're only halfway through this series. There is more to come, and each topic in its own right. We're just going, scratching the surface. So go back and look at those Learn modules, run through them, do the tutorials, get that hands-on experience that Ginger was talking about. And then maybe watch some more of these sessions, watch them back, because you're taking in as much as you can take in as we're going through it. Come back and rewatch, and you might pick up more different tips, because now that you've understood the fundamentals, you can come back and you get a different perspective of the session and see some of those more advanced concepts as well.
I think this Ask Us Anything is really a great starting point, especially if you have been studying it and you're like, I don't get this topic, or is this going to be on this test? What are you thinking about that, Hides?
Yeah, and if you haven't seen the Fabric Careers Hub, check that out, because they do these little study groups as well. Like, they've got AMAs, they've got study groups, they've got forums, we've got user groups around the globe, both virtually and in person. There are so many opportunities. There's even, groups that meet virtually. I think it's like Sunday my time. I think it's Saturday afternoon in the US. And it's just people doing a study session, like study buddies. And they're like, hey, let's go through this topic. Let's do a bit of a lunch and learn type thing. It's cool, because you do what's best for you. If you learn by theory or learn by practice, have a look at the different learning options that you have and engage with the network. But this Ask Us Anything, they literally mean ask you anything. How do I write this in KQL? How do I create an event house? Can I have more than one event house in a workspace? Yes, you can. Can I have multiple event streams? Yes, you can. All the different things. Check it out.
Yeah, those are really great. And of course, video learning is, of course, obviously a great way to get your brain wrapped around this. And don't forget, this is one of the things that Microsoft is really wanting to help you get. So they're not going to even charge you for it. Those 50,000 vouchers, that means there'll be enough for you. But you do need to make sure that you don't waste time thinking about it, because you do have to do it by May 28th. And in my part of the world, it is the 7th now. So definitely take those 3 weeks and make sure that you do the Learn modules. Take advantage of doing this for free. Why spend money when you don't have to?
I know. Also, so many people, they see that 50,000 and they think, oh, no, I'm going to miss out. I've had colleagues say that before, and I'm like, Do you know how many people like think that and therefore they don't do it? Whereas you got to
Right.
give it a go, like scan that QR code, fill in. And what's really cool with some of these challenges that Microsoft put out there, if you've already done the Learn module, it knows because it's looking at your Learn profile. So sometimes you go and go, okay, for this pathway, there's 13 modules. If you've already been studying, you've already done 10, the challenge is 3/4 completed. You've only got a couple more modules to do, and then you can be in the running to get that exam voucher. Like, it's a win-win.
Yeah. And there's so many other resources. I mean, take a look at this shortcut for I am ready DP-700 prepare. Definitely puts them all in the same place just to make it easy for you. And also, you know, hey, the forum. So, and also, again, you raised a great point. Reach out to the users group. There's so many great users groups all over the world, and there are people who are also looking to pass this exam, and you can kind of make accountability buddies and do this all together. So definitely is something that you want to take advantage of, the community, because the community obviously is great because you can meet wonderful people like we met up in the data
Absolutely.
community. Yeah.
And if you're new to this community, like, welcome to your new virtual family that you never knew you had. And we're global. Like, I was just thinking about this as we're doing this session. I'm like, I remember Data Mozart, Nikolai, out of Europe. He's got this blog post talking you through how to study for DP-700. Kevin Chant's got stuff on DP-700. But if you've never heard of these people, you don't know. Reach out to people like Ginger and I, and we can try and network you further into this big data family that we've got so that you can try and have those buddies. You might be the only data professional where you are, or you're working from home. There's not a data professional nearby. Just reach out. This virtual family, we're here to help.
Great point, Heidi. And it's been so much fun talking about this. And thank you so much for having us. And everyone, I hope you take the time to take advantage of all that is offered for preparing for this exam, and definitely show up at the rest of the series for this so that you can make sure that you've got everything you need to pass the exam. Thanks so much.
Thank you. Thanks, everyone. And thanks
See
to
you